On the 11th day of my postpartum confinement, I secretly ate an entire box of durian. The durian was brought by my best friend, Jo Yen. She came to see me in the afternoon, carrying a bag of baby diapers, with a box of chilled durian flesh tucked underneath. She blinked and whispered, "You were craving it so badly when you were pregnant. I've kept it in mind all this time. The doctor said a little won't hurt. Just don't let your mother-in-law see that." I nearly cried. I in the last trimester, my blood sugar was high, and I didn't dare touch any fruit. The fruit shop at the entrance of our neighborhood would open a durian, and I'd have to take a detour even when passing by, afraid I wouldn't be able to control myself. Back then, Chin had stroked my belly and said, "Once you've given birth, I'll buy you a whole box. No one will stop you." After the baby was born, he forgot those words completely. Wu Shizhen, on the other hand, remembered every one of her postpartum confinement rules. No air conditioning allowed. No washing your hair. No touching fruit. No drinking plain water. They even said to brush my teeth less, afraid that the roots of my teeth will soften later. When I gave birth to Tuan vaginally, I had an episiotomy and 9 stitches, and even sitting hurt. During the day, my breasts would swell painfully hard with milk. At night I had to feed her every 2 hours. So sleepy my eyelids kept falling shut, and she forced me to drink greasy pig trotter soup every day. The smell was so overpowering it made me want to vomit. The moment the durian touched my tongue, I felt alive again, soft, sweet, cool. I sat on the edge of the bed, taking bite after bite, eating fast, afraid of being discovered. I even stuffed the pits back into the box first, planning to quietly deal with them later when she went downstairs to take out the trash. But durian, well, that stuff has a smell too overpowering. Just as I finished the last piece, Wu Shizhen pushed the door open and came in. She wrinkled her nose first, then she looked at the trash can. He finally fixed his gaze on the empty box by my feet. "You ate durian?" I pulled out a wet wipe and wiped my hands. "I did." She blew up at once. "Are you crazy? You're still in postpartum confinement. Can someone who's breastfeeding eat this? Something this smelly and this heating? You want to give the child internal heat, and you ate a whole box of it. Do you even know how much a box like this costs?" I said. "It was a gift from Jo Yen. The doctor said a little is okay. A little." She lunged over and lifted the box, so angry her hands were shaking. "This is a little. The whole box is empty. Do you think you're some rich young miss? You had a baby and now you're acting all delicate. Look at you now, your milk is scarce, and you've got a pile of problems. And you still want to copy other people and eat durian." The more I listened, the more a surge of anger shot straight up in my chest. I'm already like this. The perineal wound hadn't healed. The lochia hadn't stopped. My chest was so congested that even the slightest touch hurt. And sleep came only in scraps, piece by piece. She never asked whether I was in pain. All she ever said was that I was squandering money, that I was being willful. I said, "I'm eating something my friend gave me." She let out a cold laugh. "Just because your friend gave it to you, you can eat it recklessly. You're the Chin family's daughter-in-law now, the mother of Tuan. Everything that goes into your mouth concerns the child. Do you have even the slightest sense of what it means to be a mother?" I was just about to fire back when the sound of keys came from the doorway. Chin was back. He had come home early today, his suit jacket still draped over his arm. The moment he stepped inside, he frowned. "What's that smell?" Wu Shizhen immediately rushed over, clutching the empty box as if she had caught me in the act. "You came back at just the right time. Look at your wife. She's sneaking durian during her confinement, ate an entire box." I said a couple of words to her, and she even used the doctor to pressure me. "Your mother has worked hard, serving her day and night, and this is how she mistreats herself, mistreats the child." Chin turned to look at me. Su Tang, "You ate durian." I looked at him. "I did. How are you thinking? The doctor said I could eat a little. I'm eating the ones Jo Yen brought over." "I already told your mom about it. You're talking back now." Wu Shizhen cried out. "She doesn't even take me seriously anymore. If she's eating durian today, is she going to be drinking ice-cold cola tomorrow? I'm controlling her for her own good. And look at her. Putting on a face for who? The little spark of anger in me flared up completely, whether you're doing this for my own good or for the baby's. Let's put that aside for now. I fixed my eyes on Wu Shizhen. What gives you the right to start yelling at me the moment you walk in? I'm only 11 days postpartum eating a piece of fruit as if I've broken some heavenly law. Qin Jin's expression darkened at once. Apologized to Mom. I thought I must have heard him wrong. What did you say? I'm telling you to apologize to Mom. His voice was even colder than before. She's taken care of you for so long. And this is the attitude you have. You ate something you shouldn't have and still won't admit it. And now you're talking back to an elder. Don't you have any manners? I froze completely. Manners. My parents raised me to this age and never laid a finger on me. Now I've given birth and lost half my life in the process. And after sitting in my own room eating a box of durian a friend gave me. He told me to apologize to his mother and even dragged upbringing into it. I laughed in anger. Qin Jin. Say that again. I said apologized. I don't know. Smack. By the time the slap came down, I hadn't even reacted. My left cheek exploded with heat. And my ears buzzed. A metallic tang flooded my mouth. I instinctively turned my head and braced myself against the edge of the bed, just barely keeping from toppling over. Tuanshuan. In the little bed. Jolted in fright and burst into tears the next second. The room fell silent for half a second. Wu Shizhen was the first to come to her senses. She put on a show of blocking them with a few words. Oh dear. Why did you have to lay hands on him? But that look, I could see it plain as day. She was enjoying it. Slowly, I lifted my head and looked at Qin Jin, his hand, the one that had struck Mua's, still hanging in midair. His expression stiff. As though he hadn't expected himself to actually follow through and hit me. I raised a hand and touched my face. My fingertips were burning hot. Only one thought remained in my mind. He'd better not regret that slap. If someone had told me before I got pregnant that Qin Jin would hit me while I was in my postpartum confinement, I would have thought that person was crazy when Qin Jin was pursuing me. He really did act like a decent human being. He'd come pick me up when it rained, when my period cramps made my stomach hurt. He'd remember to make me brown sugar water. If I worked overtime until 10, he'd wait downstairs, carrying the sushi I loved in his hand. My parents had a very good impression of him the first time they met him. Wu Shizhen was good at putting on an act too. On the day of the engagement, she kept smiling and said, all I want is a sensible daughter-in-law. As for money, it doesn't matter. What matters most is that the young couple lived their lives well. For more than a year after we got married, we really didn't have any major conflicts. Qin Jin and I both worked from 9 to 6, with the occasional overtime. Wu Shizhen lived in an old residential compound and rarely came by. Whenever she did, she would bring a bag of dumplings she had wrapped herself, or a pot of chicken soup she had stewed. She wasn't very talkative and seemed quite measured in her behavior. After I got pregnant, everything slowly changed. First, she took the initiative to move in and take care of me. Being pregnant is hard on a woman. You can't do without an elder nearby. Your mother lives too far away. So I'm the most convenient one to come. Qin Jin also tried to talk me into it. Mom's coming over out of kindness. Don't overthink it. The time. I really didn't think much of it. Who knew that as soon as she walked in, she'd act as if she were taking over her own territory. The pregnancy snacks I bought, she went through them. The prenatal checkup slip I'd left on the sofa, she went through it. I ordered takeout, and she stood beside me watching the total. Night. I set the air conditioner to 26 degrees. In the middle of the night, she got up and turned it off for me, and even shut the window tight. In July, the air outside was stifling. Like a steam basket, I woke up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat, my sleepwear soaked through. She stood at the doorway holding a bowl of thick, sticky soup like bird's nest and said, when you're pregnant, you have to eat hot food. Sweating is good, it helps detox. I said I wanted to wash my hair, and she said no. I said my mouth tasted bitter and I wanted to eat some oranges, and she said they were too cold. I said the doctor told me to control my weight and use less oil in the soup. And she said, what does the doctor know about postpartum confinement? Qin Jin would try to smooth things over at first. Mom, say a little less, honey. Mom just has old-fashioned ideas. Don't take it to heart, bear with it a little longer. Just for this little while, later on. He couldn't even be bothered to smooth things over anymore, whatever Wu Shizhen said. He just nodded when Wu Shizhen complained that I was refusing to drink the soup. He told me to be obedient when Wu Shizhen said I was being too delicate over a pregnancy. He merely smiled and said nothing after the child was born. Things only got worse. I labored for more than 10 hours in a natural delivery, and by the end I was nearly spent. As they stitched up the incision from the episiotomy, I lay on the delivery bed trembling, tears streaming down my face. Qin Jin stood beside me, holding my hand, and said, "Honey, you've worked so hard. Once we get home, all you need to do is rest. Mom and I will take care of you." After we got home, I really only had one thing to do, nurse, for all the rest. She and her son could seize on them as an excuse to make a fuss. Wu Shizhen said I didn't have enough milk because my constitution was poor. Wu Shizhen said Tuanchun cried because the way I held the baby was wrong. Wu Shizhen said if I didn't drink the soup right after nursing, my milk would dry up and go back. Wu Shizhen said that feeding the baby while lying down was unvirtuous and would spoil the child. One day at 3 in the morning, right after I finished nursing, my chest hurt so badly I was breaking out in a sweat. And I wanted to drink a sip of warm water. She actually took away the thermos. Drinking water in the middle of the night is bad for your health. I stared at the empty bedside table, unable to say a word for a long time. Qin Jin, sleeping beside her, turned over and muttered vaguely, "Mom has a point." That was when I felt something was off. I and this family. The husband seemed to be slowly disappearing. What remained was Wu Shizhen's son. After that slap landed, I actually calmed down. Tuanchuan was crying hard, so I picked him up first. Wu Shizhen was still lecturing there. "Look at him. You've frightened the child. You're about to be a mother, and you're still this willful. If the child gets fever, rashes, or diarrhea later on, don't blame anyone else." I held Tuanchuan and patted him gently. Without looking at her, I only looked at Qin Jin. "You hit me just now." His Adam's apple bobbed once. "Don't make a fuss first, I'm asking you. Did you hit me just now or not?" Wu Shizhen hurriedly said. "It's only normal for a man to have a temper. You were in the wrong too. You secretly ate durian while you were still in your confinement period. And you even talked back to your elders." He just got anxious for a moment. "I wasn't asking you." I cut her off directly. Qin Jin's face was already losing composure. "Su Tang, that's enough. I only slapped you on Cedo. You really need to make such a big deal out of it. Mom worked hard to take care of you, and you didn't say a single nice word. The moment you opened your mouth, you were being disrespectful. Shouldn't I be allowed to discipline you?" I nodded. "Good. You admit you hit me." He frowned. "You recorded it." I said nothing and lowered my head to glance at the tiny black dot above the crib. That was the baby monitor Qin Jin had installed himself. He said that this way, he could still keep an eye on the child while working. At that moment, looking at the camera footage, I suddenly felt my mind settle. Qin Jin followed my gaze, and his expression changed. He strode over to the bedside and reached out to snatch my phone. "Delete what you just removed." I took half a step back, clutching the child tightly. "Don't touch me." Wu Shizhen grew anxious too. "What's it look like when a family turns into this mess?" "Put the phone down right now. Is a husband and wife's quarrel really worth recording? If this gets out, whose face will be lost?" I let out a faint laugh. My face hurt this badly, and they were still thinking about face. I put Tuan back in the little bed, picked up my phone, and took a picture of myself. The red mark was very clear. 5 fingers stretched across my left cheek. I swept the camera around the room again. The trash can, the durian box, the wet wipes on the floor, Tuan with his tear-streaked face. At last, the lens came back to Qin Jin's face. "You just hit me, didn't you?" Qin Jin forced down his anger. "Don't make a scene, answer me." "Yes, I hit you." He gritted his teeth. "But you were the one who made Mom angry first." "Good." This sentence was included too. That night, he came once more. Wu Shizhen went to bed early, and Tuanchuan fell asleep after finishing his milk as well. Qin Jin sat by the bed and handed me a pack of ice. "Put some on it. It'll be gone by tomorrow." I didn't take it. He lowered his voice. "I was impulsive today. You don't have to keep hanging on to it. Mom's getting old. Her ideas are outdated. Can't you just go along with her a little? I looked at him. He really thought that if he handed me a bag of ice afterward, then this whole thing would be over. I asked, "Why did you hit me?" I already said I just got carried away for a moment. You can get angry. You can shout. You can slam the door. What right do you have to raise your hand? He fell silent for 2 seconds. Irritated. Su Tang. Can you stop fixating on this? It was just one slap. Do you really have to tear this family apart over it? Just one slap. I memorized those 5 words, word for word, while he went to take a shower. I opened the monitoring software and connected to the cloud for the baby camera at home. Sure enough, the video was there. The part where Wu Shijin stormed in carrying the durian box was there. The part where she yelled at me was there. The part where Chen Jin made me apologize was in there. That slap was in there too. The footage wasn't particularly clear. The sound was enough. I downloaded the video to my phone, backed it up to cloud storage, and sent it to Zhou Yan. Then I sent Chen Jin a message. You said I talked back to your mother. So you hit me. He replied quickly, you were eating whatever you wanted while you were still in confinement. And you even gave the elders a black face. Shouldn't I have been the one to discipline you? I kept asking. Do you think it was right to hit me this time? Several minutes passed. He replied, it was wrong of me to hit you, but you should reflect on yourself too. Your temper has been getting worse lately. And mom is already tired enough taking care of you and the child. I saved the screenshot. Good. There's surveillance, there are photos, there were chat logs. He admitted it himself. At last, that slap had landed. The next morning, I acted as if nothing had happened. I fed the baby. I drank the soup. I even said to Wu Shijin, Mom, please put less salt in the Christian carp soup today. Tuan kept spitting up milk last night. She froze for a moment, clearly not expecting me to soften so quickly. Chen Jin also let out a sigh of relief before leaving for work. He even patted my head. That's more like it. Stop butting heads with your mom all the time, and the house will be peaceful. Suppressing my disgust, I turned my head slightly away and said nothing. I couldn't rush things now. I still had injuries on me. The child was only 11 days old. If I made a scene now, they would surely say I was emotionally unstable after giving birth. I had to pile up a thicker hand of cards before I made my move. During the day, Wu Shijin took phone calls in the living room, her voice so loud that the whole house could hear it. Oh, don't even get me started. My daughter-in-law is incredibly precious. She was still eating durian while in confinement. 1 box costs more than 100 yuan. Can you believe that? My son was furious and gave her a good scolding. And only then did she finally behave. Lying in my room, I quietly turned on the recorder. That evening, someone came to see the baby and gave Tuan 2 red envelopes. My mom's side gave 800. Chen Jin's aunt gave 1,000. There was also a gold lock in red envelopes sent by friends. Wu Shijin took everything in front of everyone and said with a smile, I'll keep it for the child for now. As soon as he left, she turned around and stuffed the red envelope into her own bag. I said, that's for Tuan. She glanced at me. I'm keeping it for him. Isn't it all the same? Chen Jin sat beside her, scrolling on his phone, not even lifting his head. My heart turned cold. His mother took the money I'd received for my postpartum confinement, and he thought it was only right. I ate a box of durian a friend had given me, and he could slap me across the face. That night, while I was charging my phone, I casually opened the banking app. Then I froze. I and the joint account Chen Jin and I shared. There was 180,000 yuan missing. I looked through it again. That's right, transferred 3 days ago. The recipient was Wu Shijin. The note read, renovation turnover. I stared at that line of text, motionless for a long time. 3 days ago was exactly the day I went into labor and was admitted to the hospital. The contractions came in waves, so painful I couldn't stand upright. Chen Jin held my phone and said he needed my verification code to help me claim reimbursement for my maternity insurance. I was in so much pain my mind was a blur, and without even thinking, I gave him the code. So he had transferred the money. A tightness gripped my chest. Of the 180,000 yuan, 90,000 was money I had saved before marriage. The rest had been accumulated little by little after we got married. After I became pregnant, I didn't take much time off work. And the mortgage had always been deducted from my salary card. And yet he, the bastard, had taken advantage of the moment I was in the delivery room, writhing in agony, to transfer the money into his mother's bank card. I didn't explode on the spot. First I took screenshots. Then I checked the transaction records. Then I recorded the page on video. 18 noon the next day, Wu Xiuzhen went to the kitchen to stew soup, and Qin Jin went off to work without taking his tablet. By chance, I discovered that his WeChat was still logged in on the tablet. I had only meant to see whether he had transferred any more money, but when I opened it, I saw his chat with Wu Xiuzhen. Wu Xiuzhen, after a woman has a baby, she's at her softest. This is when you should set rules. Then set them. Don't keep spoiling her, Qin Jin. Her temper is awful now. She turns sour at the slightest thing. Wu Xiuzhen, give her a slap and she'll know her place. That's how your dad used to handle your sister, wasn't it? And isn't she doing just fine now? Qin Jin, I already hit her yesterday. She's much more obedient now. Wu Xiuzhen, good. You've got to keep hold of both the child and the money. If she dares make trouble later, just tell her the baby can't be without milk. She won't bear to leave. My hands have gone cold. So that slap she and her son had long since rehearsed it in their hearts. So all those rules Wu Xiuzhen laid down after she moved and were not just to keep me in line. She was still coveting my money. Thinking of my child, thinking of how to train me into an obedient nanny, I took screenshots of the chat, page by page. When I was done, I sat by the bed and looked at Tuan, who was asleep. He was a tiny little bundle, breathing softly. His small fist was still clenched. Suddenly, I was crystal clear in my heart. I could no longer stay in this family. When Tuan was 20 days old, he was taken to the hospital once. The reason was laughable. Wu Xiuzhen fed him rice gruel that afternoon. I simply couldn't hold out any longer. The night before, Tuan had gas pains and cried until nearly 2 in the morning. I carried him back and forth around the room, the stitched wound pulling so painfully it felt as though it would tear open. Just after I'd finally lain down in the morning, Wu Xiuzhen came in again and told me to drink chicken soup before I drifted off into a hazy sleep. I even made a point of saying, "Mom, when Tuan wakes up, call me first. Don't feed him anything else." She agreed readily enough. In the end, I was jolted awake by the child's choking cough. The moment I opened my eyes, I saw Wu Xiuzhen holding Tuan, a little spoon in her hand. Tuan's face was flushed red, and there was still some whitish liquid at the corner of his mouth. I sat bolt upright at once. What did you feed him? Wu Xiuzhen jumped in fright and hid the spoon behind her back. Nothing much. Just a little rice gruel. The child keeps passing gas, so I gave him some to settle it down. It'll make his stomach feel better. My mind went with a sudden buzz. He's only 20 days old. Who told you to feed him rice water? She lost her temper too. I raised 2 children, and I raised your husband too. Would I ever hurt my grandson? You ate durian while you were in postpartum confinement, and when the baby broke out in red spots on his face, I didn't say a word. Now I give him a sip of rice gruel and you're shouting at me. Tuan suddenly vomited a mouthful. My legs went weak. I rushed over and took the baby into my arms, my hands trembling. I caught the smell on his breath. It was really rice soup. I called Qin Jin right away. Your mom fed Tuan rice soup. He's throwing up now, so come back immediately. There was a 2-second silence on Qin Jin's end. I'm in a meeting. Which is more important, the meeting or your son? How could my mom possibly feed him anything random? Don't panic yet. I hung up right away and carried Tuan out. Wu Xiuzhen was still shouting after me from behind. Don't make such a fuss. What's wrong with a child eating a little rice soup oil? You young people are just too fussy. At the hospital, the pediatrician frowned the moment he heard it. A 20-day-old newborn can't be fed anything other than breast milk or formula. Rice water, glucose water, honey water, none of it is allowed. The child's stomach and intestines haven't fully developed yet. Choking, coughing, diarrhea, infection, any of it could happen. I sat in the examination room holding Tuan, so furious I almost blacked out. Qin Jin arrived at that moment. The doctor repeated himself once more. A slight embarrassment crossed his face. And he nodded. I understand. Dr. I thought he would at least say a couple of words to Wu Shizhen, but as soon as he stepped out of the consultation room, the first thing he said was, Mom meant well too. She doesn't understand these things. Wouldn't it be enough if you just didn't let her take the child alone in the future? I almost laughed. I was in my postpartum confinement. My body ached. I nursed through the night. We still had to guard against his mother causing trouble during the day when something happened to the child. He only said, my mom meant well. 2. I looked at him. If the doctor hadn't said anything today, would you still think she did nothing wrong? Qin Jin irritatedly ran a hand through his hair. Can you stop harping on it? I've already told her not to feed him whatever she wants anymore. You told her not to feed him whatever she wants. My voice was trembling. Qin Jin, do you know she nearly got the child into serious trouble? When you ate durian that time, didn't I stop bringing it up too? The moment those words came out, my heart went completely cold. So, in his eyes, me eating a box of durian was exactly the same as his mother feeding rice water to a newborn barely 20 days old. On the way home, I didn't say a single word, seeing how grim our faces were. Wu Shizhen actually got upset first. I was only trying to help. And now I've helped myself into the wrong. If I'd known, I wouldn't have bothered. If the child cries, you can soothe it yourselves. If you need a meal, you can cook it yourselves. I'd be better off staying out of it. Qin Jin immediately went to comfort her. Mom, I'm not blaming you. The doctor was just speaking harshly. I sat in the back seat holding Tuan Tuan. My hand covered in the milk he'd spit up, all at once. I felt that anything more I said would just be a waste of energy. That night, I took a photo of the hospital records. I in the diagnosis section. It clearly read, choking cough and vomiting after being fed rice water by mistake. I saved the photo and the chat records from that day into a folder together. The folder had a very simple name, divorced. I started seriously looking for a lawyer when Tianchuan was 25 days old. That day, Wu Shizhen was chopping spare ribs in the kitchen. The noise especially loud. Qin Jin was in the living room on the phone, talking about the full month celebration. Yes, next Saturday. We've booked Jin Yue. We're celebrating the baby's first month milestone. So everyone come and join the fun, mem. My wife's recovering pretty well. We'll go together then. I listened from the room and let out a cold laugh. Recovering pretty well. I still have to brace myself against the wall when I get up in the middle of the night. If I hold the baby for a little too long, it swells and aches down there. The lochia comes and goes. And my chest is always blocked up too. He actually had the nerve to say in front of outsiders that I was recovering quite well. Wu Shizhen came in shortly after, holding the hotel menu. Take a look. I've booked 12 tables for the full month banquet. Qin Jin's superiors, co-workers, relatives, and neighbors all have to be invited. When the time comes, wear that red dress. It'll make you look better, more vibrant. I said. The baby is still so small. Is it really necessary to make such a big deal out of it? Her face fell on the spot. What do you mean by that? My grandson is turning 1 month old. What's wrong with holding a banquet? Qin Jin is becoming a father for the first time. He ought to have some face. Besides, the money from the gift envelopes can help cover the expenses. So that was what she had in mind, I said coolly. Who gets the gift money? She glanced at me. Of course I'm keeping it for now. Your head's not clear at the moment. And I don't trust you with the money. I almost wanted to applaud her. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. I said nothing. And as soon as she went out, I immediately sent Zhou Yan a message. Zhou Yan had worked in administration at a law firm before, and knew quite a few lawyers. That very night, she introduced me to a female lawyer named Xiao, who specialized in matrimonial and family law. I hid in the bathroom and spoke with lawyer Xiao on the phone for 20 minutes while Qin Jin was taking a shower. I briefly explained the situation. A slap, surveillance footage, chat logs, the 180,000 that had been transferred away, the medical records showing the child being fed rice gruel, and there was also the matter of Wu Shizhen taking red envelopes and insisting on controlling the money. After listening, lawyer Xiao's tone was steady. The evidence you've kept is pretty good. Your biggest issues right now are personal safety and the child's safety. Your child is so young. In theory, staying with the mother is more beneficial. As for the property, If it's been transferred into your mother-in-law's name, it can still be investigated. For now, don't alert them. Back up everything several times over. If you want to use the full month banquet as a chance to lay everything out, it's best to have your parents there. And make sure the car is ready too. After you leave, report it to the police as soon as possible to document the domestic abuse. Then apply for a personal safety protection order. I wrote everything down one by one. Before hanging up, she asked me, "Have you thought it through?" Leaning against the bathroom door, I listened to Wu Shijin outside calling for Qinjin to eat some fruit. And suddenly I felt very calmed. I have, then don't soften your heart. Lawyer Qiao said. After hitting someone, a lot of men love to say, "I only hit you once." But once you let that one blow go, there'll be a second, a third. If you're going to leave clean. My throat tightened. Okay, when I came out of the bathroom, Qinjin was in the room teasing Tuan. As he rocked the crib, he smiled and said, "Son, once you're a month old, Dad'll take you out to collect gifts." I looked at his face and, for the first time, felt such unfamiliarity. That night, I contacted my mother. I didn't cry on the phone. I only said 3 things. First, Qinjin hit me. Second, he transferred 180,000 yuan to Wu Shijin. Third, I'm planning to take the child and leave on the day of the full month banquet. My mother remained silent for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was trembling. Why are you only telling me this now? My nose stung with sudden tears, but I held myself steady. It's not too late to tell you now. Mom, don't come ahead of time with Dad, or they'll be on guard. On the day of the full moon banquet, you two come early, bring the car, and I'll pack the things up in advance. My mother cursed, from childhood to adulthood. I had rarely heard her swear. All right, she said. Don't worry about this. Your father and I are here. I hung up and stuffed my ID card, marriage certificate, prenatal checkup booklet, and Tuan's birth certificate all into the very bottom of a diaper bag. From that day on, I checked every night before going to sleep. These things matter more than anything else. In the days leading up to the full moon banquet, I put on an especially obedient act. When Wu Shijin told me to drink the soup, I drank it. She told me to hold the child less, saying she was afraid I'd loosen my bones. So I put the child back. She said that on the day of the full month banquet, I was to offer tea to the elders. And I nodded as well. Qinjin was clearly relieved. He even thought that slap had beaten me into submission. One afternoon, he leaned against the doorway and watched me change to Anchuan's diaper. A hint of smugness in his voice. If you'd done this sooner, wouldn't there have been so much trouble? I looked up. Done what? Been more sensible. He smiled. Mom was right. Once a woman has a child, her heart should settle down. Don't keep thinking about going against her. She's my mother, and she's Tuanchuan's grandmother too. If you go along with her, our family can stay peaceful. I asked. What about you? What about me? Which side are you on? He looked as if he just heard nonsense. I asked that even a question. You're all family, but in this household, it had always been his mother who had the final say. I didn't say anything else, only casually pushed the recorder on the bedside table a little farther, and Zhou Yan had given me that. She said a phone recording device was too conspicuous. This little gadget was much better. One charge could keep it recording for a very long time. It looked like an ordinary USB flash drive, and when plugged in beside a power strip, it was virtually impossible to notice. It worked very well. Wu Shijin was in the living room talking on the phone with a relative, and it was recorded. The muttered conversation between her and Qinjin in the kitchen was recorded too. The most exciting part one heard was the night before the full month banquet. Wu Shijin said, "There'll be a lot of people tomorrow, so you have to keep an eye on her. Even if her parents come, it won't help. She wouldn't dare make a scene in front of everyone," Qinjin said in a low voice. "She's been pretty obedient lately." Obedient? Wu Shijin let out a snort. "That's because you've scared her with a beating. Women are all like that. If you back down, they get stronger. Only when you're tough do they learn the rules. Once the child is a little older, make her quit her job and stay home to take care of the kid. She can keep paying the mortgage. And make her hand over her salary card too, so she doesn't waste money. Chinjin was silent for 2 seconds. Then unexpectedly replied, I think so too. I sat at the edge of the bed. My fingers clenched tight around my pajamas. The mortgage was mine to pay, the job was mine to quit. Hand over your salary card too. The two of them, mother and son, really seemed to think of me as nothing more than a hired hand who could bear children, make money, and serve them. The next morning, Wu Shuzhen even specially brought me a bright red dress. Wear this. It's festive. I glanced at it. The dress was a fitted style, cinched tightly around the waist and abdomen. It had only been a month since I gave birth, and my stomach still hadn't fully gone down. The episiotomy incision was still healing too, so wearing a dress like that was downright uncomfortable. I said, I'll wear something looser. She frowned at once. At a full moon celebration? What kind of appearance is that? Dressed so loose and sloppy. You represent the Chen family's face now. Chinjin also came over to persuade me. Just wear it this once. Don't ruin the mood. I looked at them and suddenly smiled. Face again. It was all about face, that day of the durian. They were afraid of losing face. I was beaten. And they were afraid of losing face today. At the full month banquet, they were still afraid of losing face. Fine, today, I'm going to tear off that facade of theirs and show everyone what they really are. Before I left, I copied the video, audio recordings, chat logs, medical records, and bank transfer records onto a USB drive. The hotel's big screen was supposed to show photos from Tuantuan's 1-month celebration, and the video files were ones I had taken the initiative to help organize last night. Chinjin even praised me once. Now that's more like it, I nodded. The real show was still to come. The full-month banquet was set for 12 noon. On the second floor of the Jinhua Hotel's small banquet hall, 2 rows of flower baskets were arranged at the entrance. Red balloons, golden placards. On the backdrop was a photo of Tuan, with a large line of text beside it: Chen family's baby boy full-month banquet. When I saw those words, I almost laughed out loud. Chen family, they really did think of themselves as some grand old household. Wu Shizhen held Tuan in her arms and praised him to everyone she met. Looks like his dad, doesn't he? Oh, so fair and chubby. My grandson is easy to take care of, eats a lot and sleeps soundly. I stood off to the side, there only to smile. Chinjin was dressed in a dark blue suit, his hair slicked back neatly. He handed out cigarettes to everyone he saw, as if he alone were the star of the day. My parents arrived early and sat at the table nearest the entrance. The moment my mom saw me, her eyes went straight to my face. The red mark from that slap had long since faded, but her expression was still terrifyingly dark. She said nothing, only took Tuan into her arms and held him for a moment. At that moment, my heart finally settled that I had a way out now. At 12:30 noon. The dishes were served one after another. The host took the microphone and said a few words of auspicious blessing. Chinjin stepped up to the stage to give his thanks. Wu Shizhen held Tuanchuan in her arms and spun around once, smiling so broadly that her teeth showed. By the time the proceedings were almost over, a hotel staff member came to ask me, Ms. Su, shall we play the video now? I said, go ahead. The big screen lit up. At first, it was indeed the photo of Tuan that I had edited ahead of time. A wrinkled little face at birth. A photo taken while taking a bath. Eyes shut tight. A little face with its lips puckered while sleeping. The hall rang with laughter. Some praised how cute it was. Some held up their phones to take photos. Chinjin stood below the stage, a look of great satisfaction on his face. But 30 seconds later, the image suddenly cut out. The background music stopped as well. Everyone saw that bedroom crib. I sat by the bed, the durian box on the floor. Wu Shizhen rushed in, screaming as she cursed, are you crazy? Eating a whole box of durian while you're still in postpartum confinement? Something that smells this bad and is this hot, you still dare to touch it? You're still breastfeeding. Are you trying to make the baby sick? Do you know how much this box costs? Do you think my son's money grows on trees? The laughter in the banquet hall came to an abrupt halt. People began whispering to one another. The video continued. Chinjin pushed the door open and came in. He glanced at the box, then he glanced at his mother. Finally, he spoke to me, apologized to Mom. On the screen, I said, I don't know. The next second, The slap rang out through the entire banquet hall. It was especially sharp, especially ruthless. The hall was terrifyingly quiet. Someone drew in a sharp breath. Someone even dropped their chopsticks. Others subconsciously turned to look at me. The video wasn't over. My face was turned to the left, and Tuan was crying in the little bed. Wu Shizhen put on an act and said, "Why are you even laying hands on her?" The faint smugness she couldn't quite hide in her tone was obvious enough for even a fool to hear. Then the image cut into an audio recording. Wu Shizhen's voice came through the speakers. "Clear as day. She's been pretty well behaved lately. That's because you scared her into submission. Women are like that. You have to be tough with them before they'll learn the rules, once the kid's a little older. Make her quit her job and stay home with the child. The mortgage still has to be paid by her. And she should hand over her salary card too, so she won't go spending recklessly." Then came Qinjin's voice. "I thought so too." The entire venue exploded in uproar. What's going on? This is domestic violence, isn't it? Beating people while you're still recuperating after childbirth. My God. And you still want to take his salary card. Qinjin's face went pale in an instant. He jerked his head up to look at the big screen, then turned to look at me. His eyes were brimming with shock and fury. Su Tang, what are you doing? I slowly stood up. The dress cinched my waist uncomfortably, so I simply tore open the decorative ribbon around it and took the microphone from the host's hand. "Everyone, pardon the interruption. I originally wanted to spare the child some dignity at this full moon banquet, but later I thought, dignity was never something won through endurance. My voice wasn't loud, but the entire hall fell silent. A month ago, on the 11th day of my confinement, I ate a box of durian sent by a friend. The doctor said a little was fine, and Qinji knew I'd been craving it all through my pregnancy. But my mother-in-law stormed into the room and, right in front of the child, cursed me for being extravagant and ill-bred. When Qinji came back, he didn't listen to a single word the doctor had said. Instead, he made me apologize to his mother first. I refused. And he hit me. I raised my phone. Here are the surveillance videos, along with the chat records in which he personally admitted it afterward. And there's one more thing you all probably wouldn't have guessed. I signaled for the hotel to bring up the other image. On the screen was a bank transaction record, the day I was hospitalized to give birth. While I was in labor, Qinjin used the verification code on my phone and transferred 180,000 yuan from our joint account to my mother-in-law. The note said, "Temporary renovation funds." Half of that money was my premarital savings. A collective gasp swept through the hall. Wu Shizhen grew anxious and rushed forward, trying to snatch the microphone. "You're talking nonsense. That's our family's business. There's no place for you to go off the rails in public." I stepped back, avoiding her hand, and also, I continued. When Tuan was 20 days old, my mother-in-law fed him rice water while I was asleep, causing him to choke, cough, and vomit. He ended up in the hospital. I've brought the medical records too. The screen changed to a photo of the medical record. The doctor's diagnosis line was magnified enormously, choking and vomiting after being mistakenly fed rice soup. The hall fell into utter dead silence. My mom cowl. Dee no longer sit still. She hugged T and shot to her feet, her lips trembling with anger. Qinjin finally snapped back to his senses and rushed up to me in a few strides, lowering his voice as he roared, "Are you crazy? Turn off the video." I looked at him, afraid of losing face now. He reached out to grab my arm. "Come back with me." I shook him off in front of everyone. "Don't touch me." He failed to hold on with that yank, and his face completely lost all dignity. He even raised a hand, trying to snatch my phone. At this point, my dad stood up and stepped forward with a dark, steady expression. "Touch my daughter again if you dare." Qinjin froze for a moment. Hotel security also hurried over, and the two men stepped in to hold him back. Wu Shizhen slapped her thigh and cried out, "What a sin! She ruined the full moon banquet. She's trying to force my son to his death." I took out my phone and directly dialed 110, putting it on speaker. "Hello, I want to report a case. Today on the second floor of Jinhua Hotel, I publicly played evidence that my husband had subjected me to domestic violence, and he is still trying to snatch my phone. My child is 1 month old, and I need the police to come to the scene." Qinjin's face turned green. Su Tang, was that really necessary? I looked at him. Word for word, yes, that day in the banquet hall. Almost no one picked up their chopsticks again. His leader had arrived, his colleague had arrived, his relatives had arrived, his mother wanted to use the full-month banquet to win face and collect gift money. At last. Everything was laid bare. He was seen beating his wife while she was still in her confinement period. He was seen, together with his mother, scheming over money and the child, and those little words they kept spouting about upbringing and rules in the end. What were they really but? I picked up Tuan and turned to leave. Behind me, everything erupted into chaos. I didn't even look back. After the police arrived at the hotel, things moved forward faster than I had imagined. The surveillance footage is there, the chat records are there, the medical records are there. There are still so many people in the banquet hall who can testify. Qin was still being stubborn at first. A husband and wife were just arguing. It was a moment of impulse. She posted the video publicly. Damaging my reputation. My mother feeding rice water is an old-fashioned notion. She didn't mean any harm. After watching the video, the police officer's face turned cold. Did you lay a hand on him? Qin remained silent. I'm asking you. Did you lay a hand on him? He gritted his teeth. I hit her once. Why did you hit her? She was eating all sorts of things during her confinement. And she talked back to my mother. The police all laughed and angered. I asked that the reason you laid hands on me. After giving my statement, I immediately said I wanted to file a domestic violence report. The police advised me to go get a medical examination as soon as possible, although some time had already passed. The security footage and chat logs were enough to serve as evidence. The community office also contacted a Women's Federation staff member and asked whether I wanted to apply for a personal safety protection order. I nodded, yes, that very night. I went back to my parents' home with Mom and Dad. When I went back to get my things, Qin blocked the doorway and wouldn't let me in. His voice was hoarse. Su Tang, do you really have to make things this ugly? I stood outside holding tea in my arms, too lazy to pay him any mind. My dad went in with 2 police officers to help me pack my things: ID card, bank card, jewelry, computer, Tuan's clothes, bottle, and diapers, and the diaper bag that held my documents. Wu Shizhen sat on the sofa wiping away tears, still muttering under her breath, what a disgrace to the family, marrying such a troublemaker into the house, just because of eating some durian. So much happened. You're a mother now, and you still run back to your parents' home. What does that look like? I turned to look at her. I ate 1 box of durian, and it only cost 180 yuan. But that slap your son gave me cost us an entire family. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Qin followed me downstairs and still tried to grab my arm. Leave the child here, the police immediately reminded him on the spot. The child is so young. It's more appropriate for the mother to take care of them. Be careful. And don't engage in any more extreme behavior. He could only watch helplessly as I got into the car. That night, I slept at my parents' home for the first uninterrupted sleep I'd had since giving birth, even though it was only 4 hours. But when I woke up, no one was forcing me to drink pig trotter soup. No one lifted my blanket to see whether I was sweating. No one stood at the doorway and said, that's how a woman should spend her confinement. My mother made me millet porridge, steamed egg custard, and even cut up a plate of apples. Looking at that plate of apples, I nearly cried again. I used to think the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law problem was merely troublesome. Only now do I understand that what truly suffocates a person is when a husband silently approves of everything and even hands over that slap himself. Over the next few days, messages from Qin came flooding in like mad. First came the insults. You ruined my job. My boss talked to me today. Are you satisfied now? And then, shifting the blame, it's all my mom's fault for insisting on fighting you over that box of durian. She's old-fashioned. I'm fed up with it too. Why did you have to make a scene at the full moon banquet? Only then came the apology, wife. I was wronged. I really regret it. I lost my head that day from anger. Come back. Let's live on our own. I'll have mom go back. I looked at those messages and could only find them laughable. When he hit me, he never thought about the consequences. Now that the hidden video had been released, he finally knew what pain felt like. Lawyer Chow told me not to meet him alone, keep all communication in writing whenever possible, reply to him, and the calmer, the better. So I replied with just 1 sentence. Let's get a divorce. There was a long silence on the other end. Half an hour later, he sent a long message. Can you not be this heartless? Just because of one slap. You want to leave the child without a complete family. How am I supposed to face people after this? I took a screenshot of that one too. What he cared about most was never anything but how he himself would look in other people's eyes. Less than 2 days later, Zhou Yin brought me some news. Chen Jin was originally going to be promoted to supervisor. But that's ruined now. Someone from their company went to the baby's 1-month banquet and shared the video in a small group chat. Now everyone in the whole office knows he beat his wife while she was still in her postpartum confinement. I was burping tuan when I heard it. And I only gave a quiet oh, this was only the beginning. What truly made him hurt was still yet to come. Point 10. Wu Xiuzhen came to see me half a month later, that morning. Just after I finished nursing the baby. My mother was simmering soup in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. My mom peered through the peephole, and her face instantly darkened. What is she here for? When the door opened, Wu Xiuzhen was standing outside, looking like she had lost a whole circle of weight. She was holding a black plastic bag. Her eyes red. I thought she had come to make a scene again. As it turned out, when she spoke, her voice was actually a little hoarse. Su Tang. I want to talk to you alone for a few words. My mother immediately stepped in front. There's nothing to talk about. Wu Xiuzhen lowered her head. Sister-in-law, I'm not here today to take the child away. I have come to pay back the money. Something stirred in my heart. I let her in. But I didn't let her stay seated for long. She placed the plastic bag on the coffee table. Inside were 2 bank cards, a passbook, and a stack of cash. This is the 180,000. The money you saved after marriage. And what Chen Jin transferred into my account. I didn't touch a cent. And the red envelopes Tuan received around the time of the full month celebration. I kept accounts for all of them. What belongs to whom? I returned to whom. I looked at the passbook and said nothing. On the back of Wu Xiuzhen's hand was a very noticeable bruise. Dark blue and purple. It looked as if it had been caused by a blow. I stared for 2 seconds and asked, "Did he hit you?" Her face went white at once, but she stubbornly said, "No, but that look couldn't fool anyone." I asked again, "Did he yell at you?" This time she didn't make a sound, but tears fell from her eyes. I understood. Chen Jin had hit a wall with me, and his work had also been affected. When he went back, of course he would need someone to vent his anger on. And in that household, for the moment, she was the only one left he could take it out on. I didn't feel any sense of relief. All I felt was irony. Back then, Wu Xiuzhen had single-mindedly taught her son that women must be kept down. Now she had tasted that very bitterness herself. She lowered her head, her voice very soft. Su Tang, I really did used to have a problem with you. You went to work, earned a high salary, and you were pretty too. I kept feeling uneasy, afraid that you'd look down on my son. Afraid that in the future you'd end up riding roughshod over us. After you got pregnant, I thought I should establish the rules first. Who could have known? When she got to this point, it was as if something had clogged her throat. Who could have known I'd end up protecting my son this much? Now all he does is blame me. Every time he opens his mouth, he says it was because I kept fixating on that box of durian that he lost his job and lost face. That day he came home drunk, flipped the table, and asked me for the savings book. I wouldn't give it to him, and he shoved me. My mother, standing nearby, let out a cold laugh. Now you know what pain feels like. Wu Xiuzhen's face burned, and she didn't argue. She took another recording pen out of her bag. There are the things Chen Jin and I said recently. He asked me to testify in court, to say that he didn't hit you, that the video was deliberately edited by you. I can't do it. I'll return the money, and I'm willing to tell the truth. I looked at her, feeling no trace of that mother-in-law's remorse people like to talk about. Her coming to this point today wasn't because she had suddenly come to understand on her own. It was because the knife she had handed over with her own hands had turned back and stabbed her instead. I said, "You didn't come today to help me. You're here to clean up your own mess." She nodded. I know. I'm not going to remarry Chen Jin just because you're paying me back or telling the truth. And I'm not going to pretend nothing ever happened. I understand. You can see Tuan in the future, if you want. But there are rules. Tell me in advance. And you're not allowed to take him alone, nor interfere in my life. Her tears fell even harder. Okay, before leaving, She stood at the doorway and suddenly turned back. Su Tang. That box of durian actually. When I smelled it that day, the first thing I thought of wasn't the child. The first thing I thought was that you ate more than 100 yuan's worth in one sitting. And I felt sorry for the money. Then I thought you wouldn't listen to me. And after that, when I saw Qinjin hitting you, I even thought you deserved to be put in your place a little. When she finished speaking, her whole body seemed to collapse. It was my fault. I watched her in silence. You're quite mistaken. After the door closed, I put the bank book and the voice recorder into the drawer. In that moment, I knew that the last shred of cover Qinjin had left was also about to disappear. On the day of the hearing, Qinjin was dressed very formally. A white shirt, black dress pants. Even his hair had been carefully combed. Standing in the courtroom, he still wore that same look. As if he were determined to preserve whatever dignity he had left. He had hired a lawyer. Even the explanation his lawyer gave made me want to laugh. Both sides are merely in a family dispute. The defendant lost control of his emotions for a moment. And there was only one minor physical altercation. At the child's 1-month celebration banquet, the plaintiff publicly played secretly recorded videos, deliberately amplifying the impact and causing the conflict to escalate. The transferred funds were held in trust within the family. Feeding rice soup is a difference in child-rearing beliefs and does not constitute malicious harm. I sat in the plaintiff's seat, perfectly calm. What needed to be said, Lawyer Chiao had already said for me. The video was played, chat logs were submitted, medical records were handed in, bank statements were obtained. Even the contents of the recording pen in Wu Shizhen's possession were played in court. Inside, Qinjin was drunk and lashing out at his mother. You keep going on and on about that stupid durian incident. If you hadn't pushed me, would I have laid a hand on you? The money was supposed to be mine in the first place. What are you holding on to it for? You ruined my job. Wu Shizhen sat in the witness box, her face ashen. When it was her turn to testify, Qinjin kept staring at her. That look, I knew it all too well. Warning, threat, and disbelief. He probably never dreamed that one day his own mother would stand on my side and speak up for me. The judge asked, are the surveillance footage and chat records submitted by the plaintiff authentic? Wu Shizhen fell silent for a few seconds, her voice trembling. They're authentic. That day, Qinjin was the one who hit her. Were you aware of the transfer of 180,000 yuan? Yes, I was. I discussed it with him. I said we should put the money in my hands first, just in case of Su Tang. In the end, I didn't touch a single cent of it. I returned it all. Who was the one who mistakenly fed the child rice water? Wu Shizhen lowered her head. The courtroom fell silent. Qinjin suddenly grew anxious. Mom, what are you talking about? The judge immediately reminded him. Please keep quiet. Qinjin's face flushed crimson, his chest heaving violently. I sat there and suddenly remembered the way he had lunged over to snatch my phone that day at the full moon banquet. He had been anxious then too, but beneath that urgency lay a kind of certainty, certain that I could do nothing to him. But today was different. The evidence was there, the witnesses were there, his dignity, his explanations, his grievances, all of it collapsed. When the final verdict came down, I let out a long breath. Divorce granted. Tuanshuan shall be raised by me. Qinjin shall pay child support on a monthly basis. The 180,000 transferred out of the joint account shall be included in the division of marital property. The share I was entitled to from the jointly repaid mortgage and the appreciation of the house after the marriage was also calculated clearly. There was also a separate amount for compensation for emotional distress. The amount itself was not the most important thing. What mattered was that this marriage had come to a complete end. Outside the courtroom, Qinjin came chasing after me, his eyes red. Su Tang, do you hate me that much? I held the documents in my arms and stopped to look at him. He had lost quite a bit of weight, and dark circles shadowed the skin beneath his eyes. Even his suit no longer looked as crisp and sharp as it once had. Do you remember what you said the day you hit me? I asked. He froze for a moment. I said it for him. You said it was just one slap. Was it really necessary to make such a big deal out of it? His lips moved, but no words came out. I smiled. That one blow cost you your marriage, blew away your job, shattered the rosy lens your mom had over you, and tore apart the intact family your son might have had in the future. And now you're asking me if it was worth it. His eyes reddened all at once. I know I was wronged, it's too late, I won't do it again, what happens in the future is no longer my concern. He seemed to have all the strength drained out of him. Standing rooted in place, motionless for a long while. Wu Shizhen slowly came out from behind. As if her hair had turned much grayer overnight, she looked at me, then at Qin Jin, and said nothing this time. At last, she no longer stood in front of her son. A year after the divorce, my life gradually got back on track. Tuan could walk now. He could call me mom, and when he laughed, he looked like a little sticky rice dumpling. I returned to work and started with a flexible schedule, gradually easing back into my normal pace. After the house was sold, I got the share of the money that was mine, and rented a 2-bedroom apartment near my parents' home. It was a little small, but it was enough to live in, and quiet. Most importantly, no one was around to tell me what to eat anymore. If I wanted the air conditioner on, I turned it on. If I wanted to wash my hair, I washed it. If I want an iced Americano, I can even order myself a small one. Of course, before Tuanchuan weans, I'll still do my best to be careful, but this being careful is on my own terms, not because someone stands in the doorway shouting at me. Wu Shizhen would occasionally come to visit Tuan before she came. She would send a message first. When she came, she only brought toys and fruit. After sitting down, she no longer taught me how to feed him, how to dress him, or how to soothe him. Once, she saw me buy a small box of durian flesh. She froze for a moment, but to my surprise said nothing at all. She simply went into the kitchen and quietly washed a spoon for me. I didn't feel any warmth. I only felt that she had finally learned about boundaries. Qin Jin came to see the child according to the agreement. Twice a month. The first time he came, he stood downstairs for a long while, carrying a large bag of things in his hand: milk powder, diapers, toys, and an entire box of durians. When I saw that box of durians, I nearly laughed out loud. He really just couldn't get around it, could he? I stood at the doorway holding Tuan and didn't let him stay in for long. He looked at the child, his expression complicated. He wanted to hold him, yet seemed a little afraid to. Tuan had no impression of him at all and only shrank back into my arms. His throat tightened. He's already this big. I gave a soft He looked back at the box of durians. You used to love eating this. I said indifferently. What I want to eat now, I can afford to buy myself. It was as if he'd been slapped across the face. His expression froze at once. As he was leaving, he stood at the doorway and said in a low voice, Su Tang. That day, I kept thinking about it afterward. Many times. If I hadn't struck first then. I cut him off, but you did. The door closed softly. No noise. No cries. No turning back. Either. After Tuan had fallen asleep that night, I opened the box of durians. The flesh was bright yellow, and it still smelled the same. A burst of sweetness, overbearing. I scooped a spoonful into my mouth and slowly swallowed it. There was wind outside the window. The air conditioner was on in the room. Tuanchuan was fast asleep in the little bed, sprawled out in all directions. All at once, I felt that life had been slowly, little by little, getting better like this. It began with a box of durian. It ended with a slap across the face. It began the moment I stopped asking anyone for reason or fairness. I finished the last bite and closed the lid on the box. I could keep eating tomorrow. This time, no one dared to stop me.